Welcome to the Autistic Culture Podcast, where we celebrate autistic contributions to society and culture.
Join us every Tuesday as we dive into everything from famous autistics in history to the pop culture, unique passions, and the special interests that define our community.
Whether you're autistic or love someone who is, welcome to Autistica. We're your hosts, Dr. Angela Kingdon, the linguistic autistic,
and Matt Lowry, licensed psychological practitioner. Join us as we explore the values, traditions, and identity of Autistica.
Episode 99. Martha Stewart is autistic. Well, hey, Matt.
Hey, Angela.
I got
Episode
a fun
99.
show.
Wow.
99.
99.
We got 99 episodes and something ain't one. I was trying to make a 99 problems joke, but I can't be trusted to make hip hop jokes, clearly. What was it? I got 99
you know
problems.
Who can be trusted?
But...
Martha Stewart.
Well, that's true.
She knows hip hop fairly well, thanks to her good friend Calvin.
Wait, is that Snoop Dogg's actual name is Calvin?
Yeah, his actual name is Calvin. How
do you know? You have Snoop Dogg trivia in that brain of yours?
I'm autistic. I have all sorts of trivia.
Okay, yes. That's why our trivia team exists.
Yeah, that's why I accidentally crushed our poor guest who in our trivia thing, because I don't know everything, but I know a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
so.
You did correct. That's a great. I'm gonna link that. If you have not, in honor of our 99th episode, you should go listen to Trivia is Autistic. It was we were celebrating something. It was another special episode.
Yeah.
We were celebrating Autistic Awareness Month or something.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We need to be aware.
Yeah. Or something. Tolerant. Yeah. I think Put Up with the Fucking Autistic People Month. It's called. That's the alternative title. Be nice to them. They don't like it when you're mean to them.
The month of fuckery. That is April. Yay.
Yay. So listen, I'm very excited about this episode because my dreams started coming true after our Anthony.
You got the elephant?
I didn't get the elephant. Not that dream. Not that dream.
Well, how many dreams do you have?
I have so many. Well, first of all, the most important one is that Dan Aykroyd be a guest.
Yes, seriously.
And so today we have
keep waiting outside of his house, but man, he's a slippery.
Right. So. But I do have related dreams to Dan Aykroyd, and that is when great guests message me and say, "Hey, I would like to be on your show. I have a show idea."
And have listeners?
We have so many listeners. Do you know how many listeners we have? Have we talked about this? Have I told you we hit 300,000 downloads?
At least 5.
No, we have every episode gets about 4,000, 5,000. So we have
what?
This is episode 99.
Oh God.
And we have had a total of 320,000 downloads now. People are listening. It might be the same person.
Oh my.
But we know
Steve from Tulsa, thank you for listening nonstop.
I think it's that guy from the library who made you the little dragon.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy. I like him.
I think
he
it's
gave me
him.
free library dragon.
He's definitely downloaded at least 150,000 of them.
Yeah.
So, but no, we have a listener. We have a listener who is also an exceptional person, and she said, "I have a podcast idea. Let's do one on Martha Stewart." And I was
Martha Stewart. I've heard of her.
Yeah, because of Snoop Dogg.
Yes.
And America's Sweetheart, Snoop Dogg. I don't know. Anyway, Mel Deziel is a keynote speaker. She is not only a keynote speaker, but she is also one of the speakers from this year's Stanford Neurodiversity Summit because she was on my team and presented for us in person while I was presenting virtually with the rest of the team. She is a content creator. She runs this very cool, it's called the Creator Kitchen. It's a mastermind for creatives. She is also an author, and you know how I feel about authors.
We do like authors.
We do like authors, but I especially like authors. Mel has a Substack like we do. And I think it's like, I'll have her talk about it. I think it's like the Late Diagnosed Diaries.
There you go.
And I love it. And I saw it and I reached out to her. I'm like, this should be a book. And she's like, funny, you should mention that. Here's my book proposal. And I help people write book proposals. And so I was like, this is going to be a fucking mess. And I'm going to sell this lady my coaching services. And then I read it and I got on the phone with her. I'm like, I have nothing to sell you. This is a perfect proposal. It is like it's like a template proposal. It is a dream proposal. You guys, this book has to come out for so many late diagnosed women, which is what we talked about at Stanford Neurodiversity. Our late in life diagnosis changes our life. If we were able to get a copy of this book to Martha Stewart, maybe she could get a late in life diagnosis. We're going to find out at the end of this episode, as together I'm going to introduce Melanie Deziel, and the three of us are going to do a little peer review of Martha Stewart. Are you ready for it, Matt?
I'll be honest with you. If we get through it and it turns out that she's purely neurotypical, I'm going to feel a little bit heartbroken.
Oh, well, be open. Yeah. Be open. Let's review the data. Let's do a little bottom-up processing together.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a twist if it turns out that she's not, but her best friend Snoop is.
Well, yeah. But that could be coming. You know what the Wednesday's autistic episode is like.
Oh yeah, boy, yeah. We got some mail on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, please meet my friend Melanie Deziel.
Hi, Mel.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun.
We are so happy to have you. I was so excited. This is supposed to be my Moana episode. But I was so excited when you suggested this. I was like, "Oh, Moana can wait." Mel's ready to go. Let me get her in here. It ties in so perfectly because I want to talk about your work in general and the late diagnosed diaries on Substack, and we'll include a link in that in the show notes. But I wondered if you had made that connection. Like, I wonder why you have noticed some of the traits and values that Martha Stewart has, and if that's related to the way that being late diagnosed shaped your life at all.
You know, it's so interesting because up until I had the light bulb moment, which was only a few weeks ago when I messaged you, I hadn't thought about it a ton. But you know, you have those people in life that you always just kind of like vibe with in the background without really considering it. Like Martha Stewart is my parasocial friend.
That's why you were vibing with her. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So a few weeks back, this documentary on Netflix came out about Martha. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of like a cultural moment, right? Everybody was like, oh my God, the Martha Stewart story. Like, we're getting her unvarnished backstory. But the entire time that I was watching it, all I could think is like, oh, yeah, there's a sign. There's a sign. They were abundant. They were everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so much so that I Googled it because I thought, surely she's clearly, like, I missed an announcement somewhere. This has to be obvious. Where's the article? And all I could find was threads on Reddit of other people within the last few days who are watching the documentary saying, clearly she's autistic, right? Like, we're all on the same page here. So I knew I was onto something because there were a bunch of us watching it, seeing the signs. It seemed so obvious to all of us.
Well, this is the thing is, like, if you saw her playing a penny whistle, or if you saw her like dancing an Irish jig, because you have a certain level of cultural literacy about Irish culture, you'd be like, oh, that's interesting. They have B-roll of her as a kid playing the penny whistle and doing a, Irish dance. I wonder if she's Irish. Like, and that would be a normal thing to suppose. Yeah. And you could like post on Reddit or wherever you wanted, like, hey, does anyone know if Martha Stewart is Irish? I saw her playing the penny whistle and doing a jig. And and nobody would be like, whoa, hold on. We can't talk about whether she's Irish or not.
It's private information.
That is private information.
That is privileged medical information between her and her psychologist.
I declare
she can't be Irish unless she publicly discloses her medical records.
Yes. And this to me is so fascinating because there's such a low level of knowledge about what autistic culture is like. Right. That people don't realize I don't know if she's Irish or not. Like, I'm not getting her 23andMe, but I can say, like, hey, that she obviously had some Irish influence in her
Right.
upbringing. The same thing is true of autistic culture. If you know the traits of autistic culture, I don't need to do an ADOS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people who have that reaction are almost betraying their ableism, right? Because the
Yeah.
only reason to get upset about it is if you think it's a bad thing.
Right,
Whereas all of
exactly.
us are sitting here like, oh my God, one of us, one of us. Like, we're excited. This is great. You know, this is a wonderful thing to wonder about.
Right. Yeah. Matt, I feel like, do you want to jump in with any of your experiences on this from the week? You've had you've written a dissertation this week on this topic.
Yeah,
so.
because on that very topic, in Autistic Connections, our Facebook group, which many listeners are in on, I facetious there was an article in Variety that says Taylor Swift completed $1 billion tour, and I
2
facetiously
billion.
said,
2
I
billion.
facetiously said, autistic woman has productive work, because you know the headlines and all, and then. There was a response on there that says, you can't speculate on that. That is part of her diagnosis. And if you're not her psychologist, you should not be saying things. So I deleted the comment. And then I wrote a very long rant about how, you know, it's ableist to say, unless, you know, if you say, hey, she's like gay, or hey, she's this, or hey, she's that, you know, unless you consider it a bad thing, if you're relating to it, it's like, oh, hey, that's awesome. Even if you're not, because, you know, it's like, oh, hey, you consider us one of you.
Well, and that's the thing. Who cares if you got it wrong? Like, if I said
Right.
Martha Stewart is Irish and I am wrong, the 23andMe comes back and she's not.
One of my friends, one Christmas, I cooked fried chicken for my coworkers, and one of my friends said, "Oh, Matt, you got some soul in you." And I am the whitest person on the planet. My skin shade is liquid paper. I burst into flame when I go outside, but I took that as a compliment, because I was like, "Oh, why, thank you. I very much appreciate it," because, you know, I am quite obviously melanin deprived, but it was said as, ah, yes, you are one of us. And I was like, oh, why, thank you. I very much appreciate that. And this is the same thing with Taylor Swift. We see enough traits, see our Taylor Swift episode, that we consider her part of our tribe. And again, for someone to jump on here and say, that is her privileged medical diagnosis, you cannot, you know, be a part of that. I had to go on a very long rant about the ableism inherent in that, and how being autistic is a cause of pride, because this is who we are. This is our culture. Our ancestors were autistic. We are autistic. Our culture is autistic with a capital A. And this is why we do the podcast, because while I am able to do diagnoses, and that's my job, autism is a medical diagnosis, I also appreciate self-identified people, peer-reviewed people, because autism, you're autistic way before you get a medical diagnosis. Your parents were autistic, your grandparents were autistic, your great-grandparents were autistic. You don't need some neurotypical with a degree to come along and pronounce you autistic.
That's always my favorite diagnostic domino effect. I after my diagnosis, my mom, who is, you know, my early informer, is going through the paper and she's like, that's not weird. I did that. That's not weird. I did that. And I was like, have I got news for you, Mama? Welcome.
Surprise, Mom.
I did an eval yesterday, and of course the kid, clearly autistic, delightfully autistic. I congratulated the kid on being autistic. And the mom said, I think that I've learned something new today. And I said, yeah, most parents get a 2-for-1 deal when they come in here. So yeah, because it is the way of our people. We are genetically autistic. We have been taught to be autistic by our autistic parents. So this is just the way we do things.
We did learn a little bit about Martha Stewart's parents in the documentary and in my research. I don't know enough about them. They're not quite as public figures to say. But there's reason to believe that her dad in particular, you know, she talks a lot about his influence on her, how particular he was, you know, sort of the way things needed to be done a very specific way. And like he ran a very tight ship. And I was hearing the echoes of like needing routine and needing things done the same way that seems to have really informed her own way of kind of moving through the world.
Huh. Yes. Well, fascinating. What I mean, I remember Martha. She's just kind of always been there. There
Yeah.
was like a magazine.
So
There was maybe a cooking show, but I don't even take
all
us
the
back.
things.
Take us on
There
a journey.
there were all the things. So, first of all, I feel like I have to address the fact that a lot of people, their perception of Martha Stewart is skewed by what has undoubtedly been some of the most misogynistic, like, media coverage in a very
Yeah.
long time. She was a media magnate, like building the Martha Stewart brand, which, by the way, is so much bigger and more in depth than, most people realize.
She had a
She
Kmart
has
brand for a very long time.
she partnered with Kmart on like home goods, cooking utensils and pots and pans and curtains and all these kinds of home goods. And she got so much flack for it because Kmart was considered, at least in the US, was like a sort of a low culture brand, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like it was like in the Walmart category. It was not like Nordstrom or Macy's, which people thought if you're an entertainer, a home entertainer, surely, nose up, that's where your stuff belongs. And her whole thing, which was setting off sort of like my justice sensitivity alarms, was like, people who don't have a lot of money also deserve to live well. They also
Yes.
deserve to, like, they also have taste. They also want their homes to be beautiful. Like, she got a lot of flack for that decision, but she saw the gap in the marketplace. She's like, just because someone doesn't have a lot of money doesn't mean they don't like nice pots and pans or want beautiful curtains or whatever else. And so much of her presence in those early days building her empire was exactly that, was seeing those kinds of gaps and saying, there's no shows that cover all aspects of
Mm.
homemaking, so to speak, right? Like decorating, cooking, party planning. There's niche ones, but no one's talking about this holistic view. And so she did that. There were no books on weddings. She pioneered so many things that we now think of as commonplace. She made the things she was doing in her home that many women were doing, that were being overlooked as creative work, as beautiful work, as artistic work, as invisible labor. She gave them a lot of respect and a lot of attention and built this incredible media brand with, like you mentioned, she had TV shows, radio shows, she had licensing deals up the wazoo. There were Martha Stewart branded homes being built at one point. Like, she
Neat.
was a media genius. And that's very threatening, in the late
Yeah.
90s, early 2000s, when you're a woman with a
I
public
also
company.
feel like I have this kind of background idea that she's a bitch.
Yes. Okay.
I don't
Well,
even know why I think that. I'm just like, oh, she's a bitch.
oh, yes, completely. And that's the media coverage that I was talking about. So a lot
Don't you
of
hate it when women have opinions?
Yeah.
it is so rude of them, isn't it? Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she has sort of a trademark way of speaking, which she still has to this day. That, again, alarm bells going off. Like, she's very direct. She's very straightforward. She speaks very precisely and matter of factly, and that bothers a lot of people, right? But what I found is in listening to like audiobooks about her, reading articles, everyone who has actually worked closely with her for an extended period of time, which is many people, she's had some people employed by her for 20 plus years, they all say that she's incredibly caring and that she's just very straightforward and blunt. They don't believe it's malice. They don't, like, it's only the people who have sort of passing interactions with her and take one offhanded comment and they're like, she's horrible, she's a bitch, they're sort of, she's icy, she's cold, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who are around her say, like, no, she's deeply caring. She loves the people around her. She's just has high expectations and is very straightforward in the way she speaks. She will say to you, I appreciate this thing you've given me. It's poorly constructed. Let's fix it.
Right.
Like, she's just very straightforward, which I think a lot of us can relate to when you say something straightforward and you're like, I didn't mean to offend you. I thought we were all aware of this reality right in front of us.
Don't we
while
want
back-
this thing to be better? And how can it be
Yeah.
better if I don't point out, hey, the construction on this isn't good. It's going to fall apart.
Right.
A while back, we covered the book and TV show Lessons in Chemistry.
Mm.
And the main character is Elizabeth Zott, clearly autistic. And it really, when reading and watching, it really seemed like her character, fictional character, was based a lot on Martha Stewart. Because Elizabeth Zott had specific ways of doing things, was, confrontative and saying, no, it shall be done this way. This is the right way to do it. We shall do X, Y, and Z in this fashion because this is the right way to do things. And that was the first impression that I got. And again, I only have a passing knowledge of Martha Stewart. So,
Yeah.
but I can appreciate someone saying, I have seen many ways to do things. This is the best way to do things, because we like knowing empirically that there is an evidence-based reason for why we do things. We do it this way, and this way, because if you don't do it, it falls apart. I know that when she wraps presents, she uses double-sided tape because it creates a nice little thing. And I'm like, oh, that is nice. I like the crispness of that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Look
She
at
has-
you with the details, Matt.
She has a lot
I
of
have
things like
details.
that. She has a lot of things like that. And what's really neat is if you start digging into it again and like talking to the people that have worked for her for a long time or had long stints with her, they all say that they got better at their craft for having worked with her. Because no matter how long you've been doing something, she knows a trick. There was a story about, she had a kitchen full of chefs. She ran a catering business for a while. And she would say that every time someone poured from the cream, her rule was you must set it back down for 5 minutes before you pour again. And people thought like,
That's
why are you
crazy.
doing that? So
Yeah.
silly. Why would you say that? And she said, the cream is thick. When you pour it, it sticks to the sides. If you then go and pour again, you're missing all the cream. It needs to settle back down so that the fat goes back to the level. And when you pour it, it comes out again. So like people think she's just being a tyrant, but there's a reason behind it. It makes the food better. It makes it taste better. It makes the ingredients last longer. Like she was helping people get better at their craft because she had this encyclopedic knowledge of decorating and flowers and and cooking and all these other things. So
Bottom up processing.
Exactly, right. And she really was an encyclopedia for this stuff. She talked about learning something new every day. That was sort of her mantra, which spoke directly into the depths of my soul. I'm like a forever student. She was just always looking for ways to improve things and then sharing that with others. Like, hey, did you know you can wrap your gifts this way? Did you know, this flower will grow better if you clip it this way? Like, she just loved sharing that with people.
I love that because it so relates to what you do in the creator kitchen. Like you're such a natural pebbler. So when we got to go to break now, but when we come back, I want to talk about some more of those personal connections of like where you see some of the cultural traits that you might share with her. So we'll be back and we will talk about that. Hey, everybody. This is Angela, and I have an incredible opportunity to share with you from friend of the pod and one of my favorite authors that I've had the opportunity to work with, Becca Lori Hector. Becca's book, Always Bring Your Sunglasses, is a heartfelt and honest look at life through the lens of an autistic adult, filled with insights, personal stories, and a heck of a lot of empowerment. And she is offering it totally 100% free to our listeners. All you have to do is visit alwaysbringyoursunglasses.com. That's alwaysbringyoursunglasses.com for a free copy of Becca's book.
You're listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast with me, Matt Lowry, and Angela Kingdon. We've been talking about Martha Stewart. But now we're going to talk about Martha Stewart. We're now talking about Martha Stewart.
Well, I actually want to talk about a little secret Mel connection with that me and Martha and Melanie all share. We're all Connecticut girls.
Really?
And I wonder, like, I remember driving through that part of because I always say I'm from the other Connecticut. I'm from Wallingford. And I know you went to school in Storrs. Oh, you're from Waterbury. So we're like 10 minutes away. It's the other, people think of Connecticut and they think like Darien, Westchester, Martha Stewart. Let me just tell you that's not where Mel and I lived.
No. I always say I'm from Connecticut, but I didn't have a horse. I've never played lacrosse and I wasn't a part of a country club. Like that's the part of Connecticut that I'm from.
Yeah. It's the other Connecticut you don't know about. But I do remember being on the train or driving through like Greenwich, which I think is where Westport is where her house is. And I remember people pointing it out to me like, oh, that's where Martha Stewart lives. So do you think part of why you noticed her is this Connecticut connection?
It could be. I mean, the earliest, that's such a weird thing to say, the earliest memory I have
Yes,
of Martha,
of Martha
as if,
Stewart.
yeah, of me and Martha,
Mhm.
my old friend, is I remember that she had, I mean, had a lot of television shows and there were always back episodes playing. And I remember very distinctly being sick home from school, maybe high school, and there was like a marathon on. And I remember watching and just being so fascinated, like, the sort of hobby hopping that a lot of us tend to engage in, and being able to watch her, like, I'm learning about flower arranging. 15 minutes later, I'm learning about how to make a turkey. 15 minutes later, I'm learning about how to choose the right height of your curtains. It was just like a trivia, like, magical mind experience. And I have this really
So
distinct memory.
autistic. I love it.
It
Yeah.
is, right? Where you're just like, oh my God, tell me
Trivia.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember, as we're saying, we were in the other part of Connecticut. Like, we didn't grow up with a ton of resources. It's not that country club experience, right? But I remember there being like, she was so graceful in a way where she was sort of like your rich aunt who was like teaching you how to be a person of society. Like, that was sort of the experience I had. And I remember some segment about folding towels, and you know how bath towels have that strip on the end that's like more tightly woven. Okay,
Yeah.
so I learned that that's called a dobby, and it helps it be more absorbent. And she talked about how after you dry your towels, you got to stretch the dobby because it's a different weave and it'll shrink. That's why your towels get not square.
That does
right?
happen.
It totally happens. But like, every time I fold towels, I've got Martha in my head going, don't forget to stretch the dobby. Like,
now I'm going to think of that.
You got to stretch your dobbies. It's the only way to live.
I want a framed picture of Martha Stewart grabbing the elf from Harry Potter and pulling him. And I that will be a reminder in my bathroom.
I got the visual.
I will pay money for that.
I got the visual.
Yeah.
But so those kinds of things, like, it just felt so classy and aspirational. And like, I remember my mom coming home from work and seeing the towels and being like, these towels are so exquisitely folded. And I'm like, I know, I stretched the dobby. Like, like, it just had this, I really spoke to me, this like fun little like tidbits of living a beautiful life. And that's like what she was all about, You
got the inside info on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you do too. Now we're all going to be stretching our dobbies. I will say, I did search really hard to try to find the clip that I'm talking about. It's lost. This was like pre-internet YouTube days.
You may have just even made it up. We don't know.
Oh no, I definitely did not. A whole lifetime of dobby stretching.
So we've talked about linguistically, she shares the autistic trait of direct communication, which people often perceive as rude or blunt. And again, this is double empathy problem. We perceive NTs as time wasting and lying. That's the only word I can ever come up with. Bullshitting. I don't know what it's called. Not being direct, which why would indirect communication be I don't like it.
Baffling.
It's so baffling. And we've talked a little about pebbling, which I think is also a very autistic trait. What are some of the other traits or values or norms of our culture that you see come up in either in the documentary or just in her career in general?
So I talked a little bit about this, but like, she has this really uncanny ability to see potential. And I think that comes very much from like the pattern recognition. So all of those licensing opportunities, she's got these high-end companies coming to her and she's like, that's not where it's at. Like, there's a huge missed opportunity way over here, like with the, the Kmart deal, for example. But a lot of those things, I mean, she took her company public at a time when personal brands were not going, but that was not a thing people did. Her whole catering business was because her husband worked in publishing and she was like, these parties suck. Like, somebody needs to make better food. Somebody needs to decorate better. We need centerpieces. Think of it like a wedding. So like, so much of what she did was finding these voids in either like society around her or society at large and building business opportunities around it. And it struck me very much as like the kind of pattern recognition experience a lot of us have had, where again, you're looking around and you're like, we all see this, right? Like, the answer here is obvious, but nobody else saw it. It was just you picking up on all the patterns, right? So she did a lot of that.
With
That's
the
awesome.
Going public thing, I don't know if this is jumping ahead, but I feel like also it's an elephant in the room. Wasn't that why she went to jail? Wasn't there like some insider trading that
So
I don't know what that story is.
So there's a lot here, and like I'm not an expert in all things money or math, as we've already addressed. But essentially, what happened is they believe largely that she was a scapegoat, that there was insider trading happening with people she was associated with. She was never found guilty of insider trading. She was found guilty of related things, like they accused her of lying to the FBI during that investigative process. They accused her of interfering with the investigation because of how long it took her to turn over documents. She only served 5 months in jail, right? But she was totally painted as this like horrible rich
hardened
lady
criminal.
Totally, right? But yeah,
It's like she was convicted in Salem.
It very much, right? And that's where it's like this media coverage. It's like she talks about, as a Connecticut girl, we have that local chain of grocery stores called Stu Leonard's.
Yeah, I love Stu Leonard's.
Stu Leonard went to jail for a really long time.
What?
For years. For
No.
much worse crimes. Oh, totally. Like embezzling money stuff. And nobody ever gave him a hard time. Nobody tried to take his name off of his stores.
They have free cheese samples.
And they have animatronic cows. Like, what's not to love?
What?
It's a
great grocery store.
It is.
It's not Buc-ee's, but
now I've got to go to Connecticut because I want to see
like
some
an
animatronic
unhinged
cows.
Off-brand Disneyland grocery store.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Dairy Disneyland.
It's sort of Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Creepy Chuck E. Cheese grocery store.
Yeah.
Less Disneyland, more Chuck E. Cheese.
But again, like, a personal brand. He built this company around his name, and like his stores didn't suffer. Like nobody tried to bring him down. Exactly, right? But then you have Martha Stewart, who was found guilty of much lesser crimes.
And I would have said she was found guilty of insider trading and that she went to jail for 2 years.
Nope.
And I know she made a cute gray sweater that she came out with.
She did it. So this is getting into a little bit of the other thing where we talked about like the justice sensitivity, the same kind of vibes of her saying like people who don't have a lot of money also have tastes and want nice things and deserve to have a beautiful life. Her experience in prison, a lot of people say, and she has said, really like opened her eyes more to like how the other half lives, so to speak. She did a lot of work inside the prison with the women that were there. She was teaching courses, trying to give people skills that they could use when they got outside to say like, look, you're going to be here for a few years. You might as well learn flower arranging or foraging, or whatever else so that they could have these skills to take outside.
That's
she actually was disciplined in prison because what she did is she called home and was like, hey, so many of the women here, like they don't have families that can send them money. They can't buy things from the commissary, like, stamps to write home or yarn to make something. Could we put money in their accounts? And basically like that was very innocent of her, but the prison guards listening in were like, no, like that's how gangs start. You can't start funding your fellow inmates. Like that's not how this works.
I'm like, sounds good to me.
Right? But like very innocently, she's like, hey, like I have so many resources and these women don't, and it's not cool. Like, could we help them? And they're like, no, you can't go paying off other inmates. Like that's not how this works. But like she did a lot of advocacy work. She fought to like improve the conditions at the prison for these other women. Like, again, hosting classes. Like she talked about how she fought to change the pricing in the commissary because she knew that they were price gouging, like all these different things. But again, it's like you think Martha Stewart, she lives this fancy life. You picture her being in prison, being like ashamed and scared and hiding. And like, no, she fully embraced it and was like, we are all the same here. Like everyone's on the same terms. How do we make this better collectively? Like I don't know, just so many cool little anecdotes that she has shared from when she was in there. Like the food was horrible. Obviously, this was a traumatic experience for her to eat this horrific food. But yeah, she taught all of her fellow inmates how to like forage for herbs and things so that they could like flavor the food better. She like planted an herb garden so that they could, they're like adding mint and cilantro and stuff to their meals. Like, I mean, it was really cool to hear about how she went in there and was like, I'm going to make the most of this experience and try to make it as good for everyone around me as possible,
Wow. That's a force for good.
Right?
And do you think that is part of, because obviously there's a huge comeback with the Snoop Dogg stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So where do you fit that in?
They are a fun couple.
They really
So
are.
So I obviously, again, like from the outside, I don't know. But the vibe that I get is like that was a rebirth moment for her, like very similar to how I felt after I got my diagnosis later in life, where it was like, well, all bets are off. Like, I think the pressure and expectation of being perfect was lifted from her. And when she came
Because
out,
no autistic person ever knows that burden. Please continue.
But it's like she came after she came out of prison, she got to be more herself, it seems, like not take herself so seriously.
Mm.
Instead of doing like a really curated show, she did more of a live audience show where she made fun of herself. She like showed mistakes. Like it feels like it was a freeing experience for her, where no longer was she this like up on a pedestal paragon of, home beauty and perfection. She was a person who makes mistakes, and she got to be more of herself. And I think we see that playing out with, I don't know, I'm calling it like side quests. I feel like her and Snoop Dogg are just, like in a video game when you have the side quests that have nothing to do with the main plot, but they're fun. I feel like she and Snoop Dogg together have taken this like percentage of their life where they're grandparents and are like, wouldn't it be fun to go to the Olympics together? Let's do it. Like, we should make a show about smoking pot. Let's do it. Like, they just don't care anymore, right? Her going
That's magnificent.
It really is, right? And it feels like they're having so much fun and they're being so free. Like the two of them together, their friendship started at the roast of Justin Bieber. They were sat next to each other at the roast of Justin Bieber, and neither of them really, I mean, understandably at that point in life, had much clue about the other one. But this was one of her big like comeback moments after she got out of prison. She came and did this roast. She roasted Justin Bieber, said a bunch of like off-brand air quotes things because she was using colorful language and like more loosey-goosey, and people were blown away like, oh my God, that's the real Martha. She's so much cooler than I thought. And that was the experience Snoop Dogg had, where he's like, this old lady's dope. Like, we should definitely be friends. Like, we should be friends. And she felt the same thing. And like, that was it. Like, the two of them just hit it off and have been doing wild, unhinged things since then. And I love that for her. I love it for them.
Yeah. Wow. What are some other things you want us to know about Miss Martha?
Well, we talked about like the justice sensitivity. I think this is sort of adjacent to the pattern recognition, but she was described as a really precocious child who was really interested in learning. Yeah, right? This is what I mean. I'm watching the documentary and I'm like, check, ding, ding. Like, it was all over the place. But in many places, many different people saying like when she was a kid, she was not interested in socializing. All the kids would be doing an activity at the playground, and she was inside the library comparing different types of cherry trees. Like she was,
makes sense.
Yeah, like she was hoarding knowledge. She was not interested in dating, like not interested in sort of the social aspects of things. She wasn't involved in her high school, doing activities, trying to make friends. She was focused. She had stuff she wanted to do, and she was doing those things. And many of them were oriented around arts and collections, which I feel like speaks to a lot of our special interests. She collects antiques. She tries linens. She's really into like different types of fabrics and linens, and very particular about napkins and bed sheets and upholstery. And it's like, of course she is, because you need those things to feel right.
I was going to talk about this. There's a terrible Simon Baron Cohen diagnostic instrument called the RBQ, the repetitive behaviors something. It's terrible.
Yes. I was thinking of the restaurant. Please continue.
Oh, no. Simon, not Sasha. I don't know. Anyway.
Every time, Sasha.
Right.
Every time.
Yes. No. I feel bad but I don't know, both of them. But this, they don't even know. I don't even think he knows the difference between a spin and a stim.
Yeah.
No.
Because he's like confusing them. And so one of the questions in the RBQ, which I'm going to read you the actual question because it cracks me up. Do you have a special interest? So like, I'm thinking special interest, like, Taylor Swift, trains. Do you have a special interest in the feel of different surfaces?
Those, what?
It's so, I'm like you're merging.
That's like asking, do you like the taste of purple?
Right. Like a special interest. Like, are you asking if I have feelings about textures because of sensory sensitivities?
Yeah.
Are you asking, but I feel like in Martha Stewart's case, the answer to this one is why, yes,
It
I
was
do
actually
have
Yeah.
a special interest. Like she's the one person this question works for.
Yeah.
And then these are the options. You could say, do you have a special interest in the feel of different surfaces? Never, mild, marked, or extreme?
Just
I have a
4-point
very
Likert scale?
extreme, like, what is this? What is this
Just
scale?
grammatically, that bothers me.
It's so troublesome. I have an extreme special interest in the feel of different surfaces.
I will say the like medicalization of some of these things, the terminology that's used is so funny. One of my, I guess this is a script probably, but one of my favorite like bits to do in real life is to describe things as mild to moderate. Because that's what they always say, you know, in the commercials. If you have mild to moderate, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, I'm feeling mild to moderately hungry right now.
Right.
Like I'm just inserting that, you know?
Just mild to moderate. Yeah. Seriously, do you have any special objects you like to carry around? And the options are never, mild or occasional, marked or notable, serious or extreme. I have extreme special objects. Are the objects extreme?
Do
Like
they
they're
count as,
knives?
Extreme
keys?
places?
Because I
Like
need
atop
the
a mountain?
keys. Yeah. It's like,
Okay.
no, I don't carry around anything. I'm currently pantsless. Thanks for asking.
Okay, I thought that too. I was like, I mean, clothing. I carry clothes
Yeah,
everywhere, I
special
guess.
object.
God,
My
he just does
phone.
not understand.
I have an extreme carrying of my phone. It's a very
Right.
special object to
It's
me.
an extreme phone. I've seen it.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. Oh my goodness. Okay, back to Martha though, and her extreme
Well,
special
before we
interest
get back
for
to
different
Martha,
service. Should we take a break?
we should take a break because capitalism.
We'll hear about Martha and her
we were
textures.
informed by capitalism that we need to take a break to talk about capitalism and
Fine.
promote capitalism.
Capitalism.
Hey clinicians, are you looking for an affirming way to assess autism and ADHD? NeuroPebble's diagnostic assessment training for master's level clinicians bridges the gap between self-identification and formal testing. This course prioritizes lived experience and understanding the nuances in the diversity of traits. Start today at neuropebble.learnworlds.com and take the first step towards transforming your practice. At NeuroPebble, every idea is a pebble that paves the path to a more neurodivergent, affirming world. That's neuropebble.learnworlds.com. I just set it myself to be the poster child for capitalism. Fantastic. But let's get back to Martha Stewart here on the Autistic Culture Podcast, which you are currently listening to, either by mistake or by choice.
Yes, but here you are, alas, and I want to talk about which surfaces Martha was rubbing. Do you have thoughts on her interest in textures, Lenny from Grapes of Wrath style?
Oh man, and textures very important, not only in fabrics, which she was a big fan of, but also in foods and cooking, which she was also a big fan of. You know, so I think that love extended to lots of places, but I feel
like if you have those pattern matching skills and you have an extreme special interest in textures, you're going to catch things. Like when I hear autistic people, we haven't done a Julia Child episode, but I know we're going to.
Oh man,
and
we
like,
need to.
The way that, like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, like acids and bases. And like, if you understand that stuff in an autistic bottom-up processing way, you're like, oh, you can't have velvet and velvet. You have to have a matte with a shiny or whatever. That's obviously not my extreme special interest.
Yeah.
I was too busy reading books, but I notice it when it works.
But see, you probably have feelings about like the weight and thickness of paper and whether covers are matte or glossy, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
you
I
got
literally have lost clients over fighting about glossy covers. You cannot have a white glossy cover. No. I'm not publishing that book. I'm not talking to you about it. Absolutely not.
Standards.
Off the table.
And see, that is the exact kind of like firm opinion on these things that got
because it's right. As but I'm right.
Bitch, right? Like she just had strong opinions. And what I love is you know, in a way, if you think about it, her entire like persona, her entire empire is built on info dumping. Like
Yes, yes, it is.
everything she does, her radio show, her TV shows, her magazine, like she's teaching you how to do stuff that she loves to do. And she built a whole freaking media empire that gives her all these avenues to teach people about the things that she cares deeply about. Right. And
Which
when I
is
think,
awesome.
right, I mean, and also a dream. Like, is that not what we're doing right here? Like, we built a place to info dump because, you know,
Yeah.
you love people, you love to share. And her whole thing, I mean, everything she did really is like creating an opportunity to teach people about something she's obsessed with, to share something she knows how to do. It's that pebbling, it's info dumping, and she's really building community like
But I was
around.
going to say, there's also some world building here too, isn't there?
Yeah, one of the greatest stories I love, and you know, Westport being in our home place. Apparently, the city of Westport was none too pleased with Martha Stewart because she had a flagrant disregard for local like zoning rules and like things like that when it came to getting things done. So she would for example, she started a small business early on in her, like when she was first married, creating like gift baskets with homemade goods. But
Okay.
like, we're not talking about like a local health inspector situation. We're talking about like her and her friends in their kitchen making
She
stuff.
made some jam and it didn't have like the right preservatives or meet
No,
some.
like there was no inspections of any kind going on, no
Yeah.
labeling. Like it was just
Right.
like, here you go,
Here's
here's
some
some of our
jam.
lemon bars. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
lemon
and
bars.
early on, she would literally sell these things in a local shop. She had like, you know, a table in the shop or whatever, in her own like casserole dishes, her own things, and the customers would buy it, wash it, and bring it back, and she would use it again. And people are like, well, you know, sanitary, you know, I'm not sure about that. But this was, she's like, I don't care. Like, I have this thing. I have friends who make delicious things. People want the delicious things. And we are going to create this like business of all these, you know, moms and people who are otherwise staying home who have these talents they don't get to share. And she's like, I like your zoning laws, your inspections be damned. Like, we're going to make delicious things. We're going to put them in cute baskets. We're going to line it with gingham that feels real nice. And we're going to sell them to our neighbors.
This is the way.
This is the way. And she's, I mean, is she wrong? I think that's the way. I don't know.
Right. I am
It's
a
the
fan
Ron
of that.
Swanson handing over the piece of paper that says, I do what I want.
Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
so much of what she did was that, like, I mean, again, we talked about like her innovation from a business standpoint, but so much of it was like, no, people want this thing. I have talented friends. And she was just always building these communities of people with shared passions. Oh, you need to know this person. You know, she would hire a cleaner, discover that the cleaner was good at flower arranging. And next thing you know, she's introducing them to the
Wow.
Clintons to like, you know, do
Do
flower
their
arranging at
flower
the White House,
arranging.
right? Like that's just the way she was, where she saw talent and beauty and art, you know, and artistic talent and just hyper connected people.
That's exactly how we do our podcast.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right?
I feel like there's a thing. I might be making this up. It's from like the Lean In era.
Yep.
When that book came out, where it was like women are going to work, they're working full time, they're coming home, they're taking care of the kids, and they don't have time for this flower arranging shenanigans. Like, why are you judging women for not having their, I don't know, throw pillows matching their blankets or whatever? I feel like there were a lot of, I'm going to say particularly women who felt judged by Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
And there's even like a say, like, I guess I'm not Martha Stewart, or if you did something that was pretty, like you had a pretty flower wreath, you'd be like, oh, that is Martha Stewart-y. It's almost like a cultural value, but there's like a judgment to it.
Well, I think some of it comes from like that media presentation of her as this like highfalutin person that like, you know, doesn't spend time with the common man. But a lot of the stories from, again, people who worked with her for a long time and her stories is like, it wasn't about high society. It wasn't about class. It wasn't about wealth. It was about talent and taste. Like, if you enjoy these things and you're good at these things, then here's some ways to do it. She wasn't saying you're a bad person if you don't stretch your doggies.
Right.
She wasn't saying, you must have fresh cut flowers from your own garden. It was like, if you like arranging flowers, here's how to do it. If you like
it's
folding fun
interesting. In
shapes
my
out of your tiles,
head,
here's how to do
it got turned into this like negative. My general feelings about her are like pretty negative.
Yeah, like
Not-
nose up.
Yeah, not in a conscious way, because I think about Martha Stewart absolutely never. But I feel like she would judge me for not being good enough. And I think and I don't think she would, because I don't think
She
about
totally
it.
wouldn't.
But that's the idea that I have. And I wonder how much of that is
That is fascinating.
we hate autistic people, like in general, in the media.
Yes, I really
It's-
think so.
It's like the way people hate Taylor Swift is so fascinating to me.
Leave
And
her
then I had
alone.
this revelation. One of the ways people hate Taylor the loudest is, and this happened when her last album came out, really loud. Everything she does sounds the same. That's like one of the ways they put her down. And then it occurred to me, Brian May from Queen, literally, I can identify any Queen song. You know why? They all sound the same. They sound like Brian May's guitar. And then it occurred to me, wait, no, every band
Every
ever
musician.
sounds the same
Yeah.
Well, it's like
because
the
they
lawsuit.
sound like themselves.
Oh man, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Who was the lead singer?
Oh, not Neil Young. I get John Fogerty.
John, yeah, because the record label sued Fogerty for sounding too much like Fogerty.
Yeah.
Because, when he was off on his career after Creedence, they're like, you sound too much like yourself.
But
You
I'm
need to
like,
be different.
The obvious complaint about Taylor isn't that she sounds the same. It's that we don't like autistic people. We don't know what it is.
Right.
We don't know their
Something's off.
diagnosis, but something about this person fucking bugs me.
And
Well,
this,
and-
okay, so
yeah.
we talked a while back about moving and the process complexity involved with moving. And one of the things that it bogs me down about the unpacking, I'm still unpacking a month later, is that in my old house, I had a system. In my old house, I knew where things went. I don't know where things go in this new house because it's a new house with a new layout, with a new system. Martha Stewart knows systems and she's able to info dump about systems. And if you like this, do this. If you like this, do this, because she has systems planned. And if she was to come into a house and say, it would be nice to have this here, because that is how that system works, because she's, again, the bottom-up processor and everything. And I think that that's where a lot of the self-judgment and the thing comes in, because, oh, you think you know better about me and the thing that I know about, huh? Well, I'll keep my towels over my windows instead of getting them fancy highfalutin curtains and shit. And, it's... again, the loathing of that person is telling me what to do and how to do it.
But we come off as know-it-all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there are, the reason I work with almost exclusively autistic people, it sounds a little more noble than it is. It's just neurotypical people don't like me. Like when they get on the phone with me, and I told you this when I saw your proposal, they write for themselves. So almost everybody's proposal, the thing that's wrong with it is the same thing, which is it's a list of what they want to write and why it's important to them. And the thing that made your proposal so different than what I see all the time is you positioned it from the reader. And mostly what I do, like what people pay me for, is I'm the audience and I come in and I'm like, okay, that's what you want to say. First, we need to find a reader and we need to position this. And that's hard to do. I need someone to help me do it. It's hard to do for your own stuff. So when I tell neurotypical people, here's the problem with this pit. This is you talking about your life, which I get why it's important to you, but why would anyone read this? They think I am attacking them and saying, you are stupid and had a stupid life that no one will want to read about.
And that may be true.
Right. But now when I tell autistic people, and I'm super excited. I'm working with Jamie Roberts right now from NeuroPebble. She's amazing. She showed me what she was doing and I'm like, right, this is what you want to write about, but this book is specifically for teens. And what you're writing here is everything therapists want to hear. It's the right stuff, but how do we flip it so that it's what teens want to hear. Like, let's look on TikTok. What are the titles of and she's like, oh my God, that's what I was missing. And every time I work with an autistic person, even just like on a sales call, they're like, the missing piece. And when I talk to neurotypicals, they're like, why are you telling me this is wrong? I have talked to literary agents that are interested in this book. And I'm like, you should go sell it to them. I'm like, if you can sell it without talking to me. And then I get like super defensive. I'm like, what? Yeah. I've been doing this for 30 years. If you don't care about my opinion, why are we on a call?
By the way, I love Jamie.
With my book, I really want you to translate a version into teen speak based on TikTok, because I really want to have it go from what I say to, hey, yo, what up, y'all dog? And I don't know how teens talk.
Skibbity toilet.
Skibbity toilet Ohio Riz.
Yes, exactly. So, we don't know what we're saying. Stop.
Yeah, my slang is a mismatch of anachronistic terms, groovy dog. And
I think my subconscious feeling that Martha Stewart is judging me is the same reason I can't sell to neurotypical people, which is they have this instant feeling I am judging them as a bad writer.
Yeah.
Whereas when you look at it again through double empathy, when you look at it through an autistic culture lens, it's like, oh my God, thank God I'm on the phone with her. She knows how to fix this so that we can actually sell it and get it to the market. Neurotypicals are like, you're judging me and telling me I'm stupid.
Well, and I think that's why a lot of people kind of like Martha rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And so especially people who had sort of fleeting interactions with her, that's where we see a lot of the negative press and the negative characterizations of her. But again, like her focus on people who are best at what they do, like, you know, I can't tell you how many stories there are of people she would meet, you know, I don't know, like waiting in line for coffee. And she's like, wait, she has no idea. She doesn't know him from a hole in the wall. And she's like, that thing that scarf you're wearing is amazing. Where did it come from? I knitted it. Amazing. I'm going to have you knit all Christmas gifts for my friends. Like there's no judgment. I mean, she hired women in the prison to knit gifts, Christmas gifts, the year that she was in prison for her family, for her pets. Like she just values beauty and craft, and people would talk about.
You might say she's a bottom-up socializer.
You might, right? And also focused on like object-based conversations and interactions. Like that was something that was consistent throughout. It's like, you know, people would say, oh, she doesn't apologize, she doesn't say she loves you, but like that's her way of connecting. That's her way of building a relationship, is to like elevate you and your talents, to, you know, find ways to help you win, to give gifts that were super thoughtful and meaningful and personal. Like that was how she connected, you know. And maybe it wasn't the fakery and the like flowery, like, oh, so lovely to see everyone. Like that wasn't her style, you know. And I think that it did get her some of that branding that I think really was just her way of communicating and her way of connecting were different. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
One of the things for me, I am like seeing so much of myself in her now that you're putting it in this light. It's so weird. One of the things for me is there's an order for doing books. I know the best order. I've done 2,000 books. I've been doing books since I was 20 years old. There is an order, and the order does not start with the title. And a lot of people want the order to be, let's come up with the title. They really want that to be the order. And
that's the first thing you read on a book, the title. Unless you just
it's on the first page. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not the right place to start. And I get very like dogmatic. Like I have difficulty shifting my routine. And I try to tell myself the world will not end if I talk to this person about their title right now. Like we could just come up with it and then we could change it later. But I'm just not that girl. Like I want to be chill, but it's so stupid and it's such a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And it's so the wrong order, and it's going to get redone anyway. And I wonder if you can talk about Martha's insistence on routines and maybe expectation sensitivity and kind of how that ties in again to maybe her rubbing people the wrong way through a neurotypical lens.
I think everything that she did had this underpinning of like expectations, and she had high expectations for herself and others. And I think, yes, for people who took it personally, you know, thank you for this gift. It's poorly constructed. Let's fix it. Like That
Or what
doesn't
was the story with her brother and the whole vacuuming thing?
Okay, yeah. So she had a routine at one point in her life where she'd get home from work and she would vacuum. It was like, I think it was like her transition activity, right? Like she's kind of moving from one thing to the next. And her younger brother, who, was several years younger, spent a lot of time almost as like like a kid more so than a brother, in her home, was trying to do her a favor. He knew she was busy. He like vacuumed the whole house just before she came home. She comes home and she starts vacuuming, and he's like, Martha, I literally just did that. You do not need to like, the floors are spotless. And she's like, no, it's not about the floors. Like, I vacuum when I come home. And it didn't even matter. It was like, that was the routine. It wasn't about the floors. It was like, I walk in the door, I take off my shoes, I vacuum. And, again, it wasn't
Doing a Fred Rogers.
It wasn't framed this way, but it's like, that was a transition management. That was like, this is how I switched from outside to inside. Like, this is the way things are done. And a lot of things like that, she would often be found at parties that she was attending, like washing dishes, because like in her mind, the end of the party, we wash the dishes. That's how we that's the end of the party. And so in many cases, she was doing things that didn't need to be done. Some producers that have worked with her on shows would get frustrated because, in TV, there's a lot of like magic. You put the undone food into the oven, and then after the break, you pull out the completely cooked food that definitely didn't cook during a 5-minute commercial break. Like, Martha wasn't about that. Everything needed to be done for real. Everything needed to be like, I'm not going to pretend that this cooked. Like, we're actually going to cook it and then wait and then film it when it's done. Things needed to be done the way they needed to be done, even if that wasn't practical, even if it wasn't necessary. Like, it's like you were saying, Matt, like, there are systems. We must follow the system because the system exists for a reason. And so the earth remains in its proper balance and spins as it should. Like, we need the systems.
Yes. I talked about all my negative feelings about her, but she actually has like obviously lots of fans because she was very successful. So I feel like before we end this, we should talk about super fans and maybe some of the other side of the things that do love her, of the people that do love her.
I mean, the one thing that I think has changed a lot of some of those negative feelings that I think people have is, it seems that if you spend time with her, she was described in many instances by many people as having a childlike wonder about things that are beautiful. And so like, people described seeing her like, walking through a flea market and then seeing like handmade lace napkins and being like, oh, these are just so amazing, like just seeing this. She has this love of beauty and of craftsmanship, and that's something that I can relate to so deeply. Like, part of the reason I love museums and things is like, I can see the craft in things and I appreciate that so deeply. And I think for other people who either make things with their hands, you're an artist of some kind, even like a writer, like you're creating something. I think that shared love of like, someone made this thing and they put their heart and their soul and their talent into it, and I can appreciate it. I can see that. I can respect that. I think for a lot of people, that is like a deep appreciation, like a deep kinship they feel. It's like, I too am a lover of well-crafted things, or delicious meals, or beautiful flowers, or well-tended gardens, or whatever else. And so I think if you can find something that you appreciate in that way, like aesthetically and from a craft standpoint, it becomes really easy to see all the things she's doing through that lens of like a deep appreciation of beauty and craft and talent. And it becomes a lot harder to hate her at that point,
Yeah.
Especially when she's hanging out with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Like, we would definitely be friends. I've convinced myself.
I love this so much. I have learned so much. Thank you for info dumping Martha Stewart for us. Before we go, one of our traditions here is to share something that we love this week about being autistic. I'm going to make Matt go first, but you can be thinking in the background of something you loved about being autistic this week. Matt, hit me up with yours. Something you loved about being autistic this week.
Well, thanks to my son goes to Trailhouse. You can learn more at trailhouse.org. It is an autistic run autism center staffed by autistic people for autistic things, and great people. I've helped a lot with that. But anyway, when he went there, he really really likes pretending to make food with his therapist Abby. And she said, "Hey, have you tried making real food?" And I'm like, "Okay, that could be interesting." So we his birthday was recently, and he recently had a birthday, and he said that he wanted to make a strawberry cake with strawberry icing shaped like Mickey. And I'm like, all right, we shall do that. So we looked on the instructions, and you put 3 eggs, you put vegetable oil, you put water, you mix the cake. He got to make his own cake. And he really, really, really liked making his own cake. And he got involved in the process, and he is a notoriously picky eater, as is the way, but he really, really liked eating that cake. So we also made some chocolate chip cookies, and he really liked making chocolate chip cookies. So I think that we've found a brand new interest, so that he's very interested in putting stuff together, knowing what's in it, mixing it together,
Oh my
seeing how it
goodness,
turns out.
Martha Stewart would be so proud.
Indeed. His next project is that Peppa Pig, when she went to America to be in Super Potatoes movie, they came to America and went to Ms. Rabbit's cafe, I think, where she was cooking an egg and shaking a leg. He really wants to cook an egg and shake a leg. So we are going to cook an egg and shake a leg. And he may be trying eggs, or I may be eating some eggs. I don't know. But it's amazing to see this new interest develop, and I love it. So that is my autistic thing, because I'm witnessing the birth of a new special interest.
Oh my God, it's so good. Like losing a special interest is so hard, but when a new one is coming on and you like feel it bubbling up to the surface, so good.
Oh yeah.
So good. All right, Mel, did you think of something you loved about being autistic this week?
I did. So, again, keeping in craftsmanship in mind here, one of my hobbies is making miniature dioramas. So, like
nice.
scale.
Is it a severe hobby? Is it extreme? Is it mild or moderate?
It's more than mild to moderate. Yeah, I would say it's an extreme.
It's severe or extreme.
It is an extreme to very often / always hobby of mine, and I've really been enjoying it. But it's always been something I've done sort of in the quiet nights and weekends in my garage, and just sort of left it there. This was actually last week, but it carries into this week. I had made a miniature based on a bookstore here in Raleigh, Wanderlust Books. I decided, you know what? It's done. Let me just send them a picture and be like, hey, I thought you might like to see that, like, your bookstore inspired me to make this thing. And you can now go to Wanderlust Books and see my miniature on display. They have acquired it to display it in the store, which encouraged me to make a landing page on my website about my miniature art. And so now it's like a thing. I feel like I've come out and shared my, like, you know, otherwise secretive hobby. And it has been so fun. Like, people seeing the artwork, getting to show my daughter, like, Mama's art is on display somewhere. So I'm like leaning all the way into the hobby.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Fantastic.
Brings up another good point before we say goodbye. I would love to share your miniature link and any other links, which I will put in the show notes. But Mel, where can people find you if they would like to stalk you in cyberspace?
So here's my favorite script, which is that as long as you spell my name right, I am very search optimized. You will find me on whatever platform you're looking for. Melanie Deziel, Deziel. I hang out most I don't spend much time on Instagram, which I know is a lot of fun. But my website, LinkedIn, you can find me sharing tidbits. And probably the best place is the Substack, the Late Diagnosed Diaries.
Yes, we'll definitely link to all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been so much fun. Matt, what do you think? You got a final word on Martha Stewart? You got a peer review?
I do love a good system. I do love the correct way of doing things. I do love a good special interest, and I love bottom-up socializing. So I give her the peer-reviewed seal of approval.
Give her a big thumbs up. Thank you guys for listening to episode 99. Martha Stewart is autistic. You can hear from us again on Friday in our advocacy episode. But if you love our culture episodes, we are back next week with episode 101 on roller coasters. You ready for that one, Matt?
Roller coasters are an up and down kind of thing for me. So
Okay.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
see what you did there. All right. We will see you guys then. Thank you so much for being here.
Have a good
Thanks
one.
for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to check out our advocacy episodes every Friday, where we explore important issues and share strategies for living your best, most authentically autistic life.
And for even more autistic culture, consider becoming a paid member for exclusive perks like Q&A calls live with Matt and I, a virtual writing circle, and our new self-defined living course by Becca Laurie Hector.
Fun fact, it costs us about $8 for every minute you hear or see us on the podcast, but our member pricing is just $8 a month. What a bargain! Buy one, get 500 free. Seriously, if you could afford it, we would really appreciate your contribution. It makes this all possible.
And of course, the best way everyone can support what we're doing here is to rate, review, share, and subscribe on Substack or your favorite podcast app.
This is the way.